I'm a rural ER nurse. I should have never adopted my patient. And X200B, I remember that night. It was a little chilly indoors, snow was falling outside. You'd have thought with the amount of money that hospitals bring in, they could at least afford a quality heating system. There was a strange scent, not unlike the smell of underbathed patients, but this was different. You ever stood in a cadaver theater? You know, the kind where the body is out to display the various hidden viscera. Strange place, if the world decided to hide away the macabre beneath a layer of flesh, I'd be all the happier with keeping it there. Though the creeping mystery of what lies beneath always got to me. Guess you could say that it was that night, the one I discovered what really happens to bodies. A patient came in, obtunded, no signs of breathing, pulse was weak and thready. An obvious emergency. Within the next few minutes, they became the star of the show. Resuscitation efforts lasted an hour. You could see the draining hope on the faces of my coworkers as the realization of this man's death was sealed before he was brought in. The doctor ordered one last round of epinephrine, and with the final pulse check, he said his verdict. Time of death, 0247. The few nurses looked to each other with knowing. Charge quickly whisked away from the room. Like a well-oiled machine, the various staff cleaned and prepared the body. No signs of identification, invasive efforts left in place, disconnecting the various monitors, pumps, and shutting off the Zal. Despite his tragic demise, our staff was taught to handle bodies with care. Humanity was something that never left a patient, even after death. The warmth drains from their body, skin pales, muscles relax, brain slows to a halt. Nothing in this person would suggest life, and yet he never cooled, never paled. 10 minutes had passed. I chose to remain with the patient. This late at night was usually the time that newcomers would ebb out. Couldn't have a complaint if you're asleep, right? Well, this patient would be the last of the night. I looked to the primary nurse. She had decided to take lead on preparing post-mortem care. She was diligent in her work. I was only able to follow so briefly behind her. See, I wasn't much for that stuff. I enjoyed the fast-paced express care. Nose swab, drop a pipe, give fluids, and send home. The simple stuff. I was good at it, but when it came to complex issues, ethical matters, I would fall so far behind. The room was just the three of us. She broached the idea. He hasn't cooled off yet. Can you grab a temperature? I obliged, scoffing at the notion. Sure enough, though, he was running hot. Puzzled, she called in the doctor. He had already spent the last half hour contacting family and writing his notes on the patient. He entered the room, half disgusted, half tired from the long shift. We approached him with the news and his eyes widened. He left the room in a hurry. Safe to say that the whole situation kept us puzzled. What was happening with this patient? What did the doctor know? Before I could finish any meaningful theory, he came back to the room with an ultrasound cart. He stared daggers into the primary nurse and I, expose the patient, I need to see something. We pulled away the patient's gown. I started with exasperation. What are you on about? The provider didn't acknowledge me. He was too invested with the patient. As he sprayed the jelly along the patient's chest, a subtle cracking arose from him, like his skin was cracking from the jelly. He then applied the probe to the patient, refusing to touch the body with anything but the probe. What he found beneath was a shimmering, pulsating mass. Nondescript, only so much an ultrasound can see. The primary nurse looked on in terror. What is that? The provider removed the probe and spoke in a hushed tone. The patient isn't dead. It hasn't been born yet. The primary nurse looked on, expressionless, disbelief slowly painting her face as the silent moments grew on. I looked between her and the doctor, and the only idea I could muster slipped from my lips. Are you suggesting we perform a C-section? The provider nodded. He turned to us and with urgency and ushered us into action. We have 5 minutes to deliver. Contact birthplace. Let them know they are getting a new admit. What happened next was a flurry of bodies. All walks of medical experience came in, and out of that room, yet none could define this experience with any reasonable certainty. that what we were trying to save was a neonate. Monitors were reattached to the deceased patient. I had taken to establishing a sterile field with the provider. Within minutes, we started the procedure, an emergency and arguably dirty cesarean section of a deceased male patient's chest. I was awestruck when we finally delivered it, a small, placenta-wrapped neonate rustling beneath its amniotic sac. To this day, I cannot explain how this happened. On February 17th of 2022, we delivered a healthy baby girl named Cindy. She was placed under state protection. Our social workers continued to provide any outside resources and get in contact with extended family, but it appears as though she was the last of her line. Last week I brought her home. I applied for adoption and was approved within short order. I was worried at first. Her checkups came back normal. She has a pediatrician, and my work is offering me maternity leave so we could get settled. It's 9:46 p.m. of February 26th. I can't find her, and I'm starting to feel an intense, writhing pressure within my chest. Submitted by /u or friendly start 8147 link comments. It's always the husband. As he desperately scrolled his phone for our restaurant open this late, Detective Hart considered that he wasn't a very good husband. It was his 20th anniversary, and he was stuck at work. Again. Hell, he hadn't even had time to buy her a gift. In his defense, this was the third homicide this week. And can you believe it? Everyone was an angry husband offing his wife. All in kitchens, all with knives. Angry men can be so uninspired. His partner, Barry, exited the interrogation room with a defeated look on his face. What's taking so long? He won't confess. At least tell me you got the place he hid the murder weapon. His partner shrugged. Damn it, look, we have the doorbell cam footage. He and his wife were the only people in the house. The wife is dead. He did it. It's always the husband. He couldn't have dispossessed of the weapon. Then what are you worried about? We'll find it. Because the chief likes things open and shut. Murder weapon, motive, and a nice little confession as a bow on top. He's going the insanity route. God damn it. This happened more often than you might think. Once caught red-handed but desperate to avoid a lifetime in prison, murderers especially would feign hearing voices and babble incoherently about demons and monsters. It never worked, has never worked. Fine, Hart said, trying hard not to look at his watch. I'll get it out of him. Hart entered the interrogation room and sat down across from a disheveled, distraught husband handcuffed to a metal table. He had been crying hard. Hart had to win his trust. I didn't kill my wife. I want to believe you, Jake, but that's going to be tough. We have video footage of you in the house and no one else went in. It wasn't a person. What's that supposed to mean? He looked down, despondent. It wasn't a person. It was a thing. Help me believe you, Jake. What thing killed your wife? He mumbled, spinning. I didn't hear you, Jake. You won't believe me. What's the point? Your wife was found in the kitchen, cut to pieces, Jake. At least tell me where you put the knife. It's a small thing, probably 2 or 3 inches, the crime lab said. I didn't kill her. Jake began pulling at the handcuffs, his wrists splitting and bleeding. He started screaming, it wasn't me. I swear I saw it move. I swear you have to let me out. I swear it wasn't me. Detective Hart slammed his fist on the table and left the interrogation room with nothing. Fuck it, he said to his partner. Just charge him. I don't have time for this. Now off the clock, Detective Hart was praying a flower shop was still opening when his wife texted. Oh, honey, what a nice gift. We needed a new one. Thank you. Did someone else send a gift? It certainly wasn't him. He unlocked his front door and walked inside. Baby, he called out to no answer. There was a humming, ominous like insect wings buzzing, but coming from the kitchen. 18 years on the force, and he smelled it before he saw anything. Blood. He pulled out his pistol and stormed into the kitchen. There was no one there. Blood spatter on some of the walls. On the kitchen island, a blender he'd never seen before spun its blades with incredible speed. There was prepared fruit scattered about, the makings of a smoothie. He cleared the kitchen and burst into the living room. There, his wife laid on the ground, clutching her cut throat, blood spilling everywhere. "Shoot it," she said. Who did this?" "Shoot the blender." He ran back into the kitchen, but the blender was gone, submitted by /u or forgotten well-linked comments. The staring man in the restroom. This happened about 3 years ago, but it still haunts me. I had stopped at a mall near closing time to pick up a gift for my wife. Before heading out, I popped into the restroom. It was dead silent and completely empty. Midway through using the stall, I heard the door swing open. Whoever entered took very slow steps. It was sort of like they would step and pause, step, pause. They stopped directly in front of my stall. I looked down at the gap under the door. A pair of boots were pointed straight at me. He wasn't pretending to use the urinal. He was just standing there, maybe 2 inches from the metal door. "Someone's in here," I called out. Silence. He didn't move. He didn't even seem to breathe. I leaned in, and when I checked through the thin crack between the door and the frame, a single, wide-open eye was staring directly back at me through the sliver of space. I called out and told him I could see him and to back up from the door. He mumbled something incoherent and said something along the lines of, "You have 5 minutes, then I'm coming back." Then he just turned and walked out. I washed my hands and bolted for my car, checking over my shoulder the whole way. With a dozen empty stalls and urinals to choose from, he chose to stand at mine and threaten me. It was one of the most unsettling, bizarre experiences of my life. Submitted by /u or Tony Cipriani link comments.